Imagine you have Azure resources authenticating themselves. No password, no secret, and no service principal to manage. Sounds like a magic, right? It is called managed identity, and it is transforming how we secure our cloud application. Hello everyone, welcome to Let's DevOps. My name is Sumit, and today we will deep dive into what is managed identity and how it works. We will also understand different types of managed identity and when to use each type. We also demonstrate the practical implementation. So let's get started. Why managed identity? Let's understand the problem. Traditionally, application needed username, password, or API keys stored somewhere to access Azure services. And this creates security risk and management overhead. These credentials could be accidentally exposed within the code, config file, or logs, which creates security breaches. So this is the overall problem we had. Now coming to the solution. So managed identity eliminates this risk by providing automatic managed identity authentication without storing any secret, any keys anywhere. So Azure handles everything by itself. Now let's understand what is managed identity. In Azure, managed identity is Azure's way of giving your Azure resources their own identity so that it can access other Azure services. So in this case, you are giving your Azure resources an identity that does not need username, password, or not even an API key. So Azure handles everything automatically. Right? So Azure managed identity is you are giving your resources an identity, and with that identity you will be able to authenticate without username, password, or any keys. Let's understand with employee badge analogy. Think of managed identity like an employee office badge. In this case, Azure resources are equal to employee. Managed identity is nothing like a badge, and Azure services like office rooms. So when you have an employee, they get a badge, and with that badge they can enter to office rooms or different departments. Right? Let's understand how it works. When employee joins, HR gives them an identity card or a badge. And once employee has the badge, they can enter to the office. Assume when employee leaves. In this case, badge gets deactivated. Now let's try to understand in Azure terms. Employee joins are nothing but like you are creating Azure resources on Azure, and then you are creating managed identity for that resource. So then the resource gets the managed identity, nothing like in a badge, how employee gets. And with that identity, they can access other Azure services. And in future, if you do not need the Azure resource, you can delete the Azure resource. And with that deletion, the access also gets deleted. Right? Now let's understand the types of managed identity. So there are two types of managed identity. One is system assigned identity, and the second one is user assigned identity. System assigned identity is nothing like an individual employee badge where one employee gets their own identity. So it has kind of one-to-one relationship. And it also has automatic cleanup, right? Because when the employee leaves, when Azure resource deleted, the identity also gets deleted. And this identity cannot be shared, right? Now let's understand the user assigned identity. User assigned identity is like a shared department badge. So when you have a lot of people, like an IT admins, everyone gets one shared badge because everybody needs same access to the server room, right? So with this, when you have multiple resources that need access, then we need user assigned identity. And then it also survives resource deletion. So assume that one employee leaves, then still you have other employee that can use the server room. And also it has the centralized management. Okay, coming to when to use which, right? Let's try to understand with the decision tree. And we have one simple rule. If you have a one resource to have access, then you always go with the system assign. When you see there are multiple resources need access, same access, then we go with the user assigned identity. Okay, so let's try to understand. Okay, you need to choose managed identity. Then you should ask a question whether the multiple resource need same access. If it is no, then you go with the system assigned managed identity. It means one resource, one identity. If the answer is yes, it means that you need multiple resource, need same access. In this case, you go with the user assigned, where multiple resources will have one identity, and which that identity you will give access. Let's understand in Azure terms. Assume you have a web app, Azure web app, and that needs to connect to the database where it has all the stored information and it wants to show in the web app. So it's like a one-to-one relationship here, right? So in this case, what you can do, you can create a web app identity and give access to the database, because only the web app needs access to the database. No other access is required in this case. So in this scenario, we go with system assigned managed identity. Let's understand the second scenario. So we have three different virtual machines and that need access to the keyword. Maybe it needs to store some of the information and you want to fetch it. So in this case, we can create one shared identity and we give access to the keyword because there are multiple resources need same access to the keyword. And this scenario we call as a user assigned managed identity. So based on the scenario, you need to select each type. And how with this example, you understand when to use which one. There is nothing right and wrong, but based on your scenario, you need to pick yours. Now coming to the demo. So in this demo, we will first create a system assigned managed identity for a web app and grant access to the SQL database. So in this first, we'll enable the system assigned identity to web app, and then we'll provide access, web app MI access to the database. In the second case, we'll create a user assigned managed identity and attach to the VMs and grant access to the keyword, because that's how we discussed, right? So in this first, we'll create a user managed identity, then we'll attach managed identity to VMs, and then we grant access to the keyword so that VM can access to the keyword, right? So let's get started. Okay, so in this demo, the first we'll cover the first scenario where the web app need to be enabled for managed identity, and then the web app has access to the SQL database. So for the demo, I've already created a web app and also a database. Okay, so first for the web app, what we need to do, we need to enable the managed identity. So in this case, you just need to click on your web app and go to identity. And from here, you see there are two different types. One is system assigned and then another is user assigned. So in this case, because there is one web app needs to connect to one SQL database, in this case, we need to have a system assigned. So from here, you can click on the on button and then you click on a save. So when you save it, definitely in the backend, there is a service principal created automatically by Azure, and that's you see here the identity, right? So in the backend, it creates a service principal, but you don't need to worry about it. It just the secret and everything is managed automatically by the Azure itself. So now once we have the system assigned enabled, you'll be seeing this principal ID, and this will be your managed identity for this web app. Okay, so it's definitely attached to this specific web app. So as part of this exercise, the second step, we need to give access of this managed identity to the web app, so that the database, so that web app can connect to the database without any password or secret. So now I'll go to the database, and this is my database server, and here from IAM I'll go to add. So assume that if you do not have a contributor, if you don't have a owner access, you will not be able to add. Since I have a owner permission, I'm able to add it. So I'll go to add role assignment, and then here I will search the role for database, because I need a database server contributor. So I select this and then go to next, and from here we need to pick the managed identity, because we are giving access to managed identity. Now when I select this and then I click on here, the system managed identity, and from here you also see your web app. So since this is our web app already created, so it's also reflecting here. So I just need to select that and review and assign. So that's all. So this is what you need to do. So now web app will be able to communicate to the database, and this is, we have enabled the system assign. Now going back to our second scenario, where multiple database wants to connect to the key vault. So multiple virtual machine wants to connect to key vault. So in this case, I already created a database, and also I've created a key vault. So for this scenario, we first need to create a user assigned managed identity, and then the second step, we need to attach to the VM, and third, we need to give access to the key vault. So let's do the first step. So first I'll go here and create a user assigned managed identity. I'll just search it, and then I'll go ahead and create. Demo UI MI. So I'll pause the video for some time. So once it is completed, we'll come back. Anyway, it's completed. Now we have this managed identity created. Right, so you can also see here, you can group by type, and yeah, so this is the name of our user assign. So the second step, we need to add to the web apps, the virtual machine. So now I go to the VM and search the identity, and here I come to the user assigned, and I click on add, and you see it's already appearing. So I just select it and add it. Okay, similarly I do it for the other VM, like the database. That again, I go here, identity, user assign, I'll click on add, and then I'll select it and add it. So assume that if you have a 4 or 5 VM in your case, or maybe different Azure resources, you need to do it for all. Right now I'm showing it manually, but you can also do through the Terraform, Bicep, but yeah, it's for demo purpose, so I'm doing it manually. So once I have user assigned identity attached to the virtual machine, because virtual machine needs to connect to key vault. So for the source, we need to add the managed identity. Now our target is key vault. So I go to the key vault, and I go to the IAM, and from here I'll add the role assignment, and here I will attach the user assign. So, and since it needs the key vault access, I'll just select the role as a key vault administrator, and then here I go to the managed identity, and since it is like user assigned identity, you see here it's also appears. Now I select it and assign it. That's all. So let it complete. Okay, so in this case, so we did 3 steps. One, we created a user assigned identity, we attached to the virtual machine, and the third, we assigned in the keyword because virtual machine wanted to connect to keyword. In our system assigned example, what we did, we just enabled the system assigned on the web app, and then we given the permission to the SQL because web app has to connect to the SQL. So this is how it works. So in this demo, we covered 2 different scenarios. One is for system assigned and the second was for user assigned. While setting up your managed identity, if you have any question, you can write down in the comment box. And thanks again for watching. If you have any question or a feedback, feel free to share, and see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.